Welcome back to part 2 in this Bubblehead Nurse mask template video. In the last episode, we built the entire head with a template that is free on my website. Quick few notes. Before that video came out, I made a few adjustments to the template. First and foremost, I tried to hide it in the editing, but the entire piece here for the front of the cap was actually upside down. I don't know how that happened, but I flipped it upside down, so now these sides here stick out. You'll just need to kind of like bend these corners outward a little bit, and you'll have that. Other than that, there were just a few small tweaks I had to make. A couple alignment markings were added and stuff like that. But other than that, in this video, first thing we'll be doing, we'll be adding some foam clay to the surface of the mask to try and smooth out some spots and add extra details that we can't really get with foam. And if you took note in the last video, I had an extra mask laying around from a template process, so I was kind of bored and decided to make a second one. In the last video, I did mention that there was a few small details between the original Bubblehead Nurse and the remake Bubblehead Nurse, so I figure if I have two, maybe I might try and do one of each, you know? Anyway, onto the foam clay. Now, what we will need, we'll do the front faces first. We'll go into detail on the back of the heads second, because this portion is going to be about the same for both either way. So I can probably just show one or the other. You will notice that one is slightly more narrow than the other. Reason being is because this is the one from the final template, and this is the one when I was doing my final mock-up to make this template. So some of the seams are just a little different. Same with the cut lines and all that stuff, and then just transferring everything to digital and over, so this might just be a little bit bigger in general too. But with that considered, the original is narrow and the remake is wider in the face design, so I might actually make this the original and this the remake. Now, this is where things get messy. What you will need is some foam clay and some water. So because this stuff is more or less water-based, you want to more or less water it down to get it nice and thin. Which I have already done in this, because you can see it looks like tar. Now, this is the foam clay from Hobby Lobby. I do prefer this stuff because of how runny it is. Now, this is obviously not how runny this clay is to start. This is the result of lots of watering from me. This one here is a brand new one. It might be a little more accurate in its consistency. Usually when I get one, I usually when I get a brand new bucket, I like to do this. Kind of mix it up a little bit, get everything back to where it should be. Now, depending on where you do get your foam clay from, the consistency is going to vary. From my experience, if you do get foam clay from Michael's, if they even still sell it, it is practically already dried and cured and is almost not worth using. But this stuff here, you add a little bit of water and it gets a lot thinner. Now, next thing we're gonna need is a little bit of water. I like to just turn the lid upside down and fill it up. Just a little bit. Now, your hands are gonna get disgusting, so it's a fact of dealing with foam clay. So what I like to do is, before I apply my foam clay, I like to get the surface wet. It doesn't need to be soaked, just enough to give the clay a little something extra to bond to. So I'll do it around the eyes first and try and smooth out some of these seams. I don't go crazy, I just get a little bit. once I have that on there, then I just kind of really work it in, keeping my fingers wet. Now I am applying probably an excessive amount of pressure. More or less I am trying to, between the pressure, the water, and the constant back and forth motion, I am smoothing this out as much as possible. All right. I mean, this is going to be a little hard to tell, but more or less we are trying to clean up every seam. Now, this could also be done just with Kwik Seal and stuff as well, which we will give that a coat after everything is done. But for now, we're trying to at least smooth a lot of that out. Again, not adding too much, just trying to add a thin layer. This stuff is very goopy. It is always a good idea to make sure that your hand is wet, because if not, it will grab the foam and pull it off of, your finger will grab the foam clay and pull it off of the foam. Now, I do realize the more I do this, the harder it's going to be for you to see on screen. That's okay, it gets harder for me to see too. Alright. So right now this is more or less a first pass. Right now we are just smoothing out all the imperfections. Once that's done, then we'll go through and add a little bit of extra bump to the nose, lip, and all that stuff. But right now the key thing we're going for is all the seams. Okay, I believe that is all the details smoothed out. Did I go a little excessive? Yes. Now, foam clay has a tendency to change shape a little bit when it dries, so when we get back to it, we'll see. But even with this little bit of uneven texture, after sealing and all that stuff, it shouldn't be that bad. That said, now that all this is done, we'll do the nose and the lips. Also, I really should have gotten a paper towel. All right, okay. I wasted enough time, but I had to try and pull up the reference images for both the original and the remake. Reason being is because there are some slight differences between the two. One of the differences I did not mention from the remake to the original is that in the original, the chin doesn't end here. There's an actual human chin underneath that extends maybe about an inch, like just this portion of a human chin is underneath it, but in the remake, the chin ends at this. Probably the easiest way to do this is use 2 fingers. What I'm going for is I want a little excess in the middle, and then have it kind of drawn out on the ends. Now my goal here isn't to add a ton of clay on the lips. Technically this is supposed to be a baby face, but I did make this just a little bigger than it should be. Mostly because I don't know what I'm doing. But also because of my method of making templates, I cannot usually make something that small. So my apologies. Kind of what I'm doing right now is any and all excess, I'm kind of working it towards the edge and then just smoothing it out with the rest of the face. Because I did kind of use a little too much. So we're gonna share it, smooth out some things around the mouth while we're at it. The real trick with this is if you start seeing the clay starting to push rather than smooth, it's time to get some more water. And by that I mean like breaking away from the surface of the foam and actually breaking away from it. That kind of movement. Okay, now with that, I'm going to push the lip up. And then just keep pushing it up to kind of define the lips. There we go, top lip. Now to do the bottom. Modeling with foam clay is both a little advanced and requires a lot of patience because you really have to work with it to get it where you want. So right now I'm just making sure I get it to bond to everything. Now that I more or less have this shape on the bottom lip, now I'm going to start pressing it into the face. Make sure I have a little extra water first to do that. I'm going to start by just flattening it out. So the way I'm pressing it on the sides, I don't want to do that to the center because your center lip has an overhang. Not perfect, but I guess that'll work. Oh no. One thing I should also note is that once this stuff starts to dry, don't touch it at all, especially with these hands, because the tackiness of the foam clay is still on your hands and it'll just pull that right off the surface. All right, last thing, we need to add a little bit of a ball to the nose. Because while I could not get that with the template, the nose should more or less just go, it should peek up just a little bit. So right now that's way too sharp, but right now what I'm doing is I'm just slowly working it. And then patting it down, and then slowly working it. I need a little bit more water. I feel my fingers starting to grab. There we go. I think that's better. We can get that in the light just right. Okay. Now I just gotta do that to that one, but I don't need to show that twice, so we'll just cut right to both of them being done. Okay, so now we have both fronts done. Unfortunately, foam clay takes at least 24 hours to dry. This stuff is going to be pretty thin, except for the nose and the mouth. This one I just finished, so it's a lot more wet. But because of how much clay is actually on the lips and mouth and the nose, this is probably going to take at least 48 hours to dry properly. That said, if you are going in depth with the lips and nose like I did here, come back and check on it every 6 to 12 hours before you go to bed or once you get up, because since this stuff is water-based, it will change shape a little bit as it dries. So as it's still drying, you can still play with it a little bit. So it might be dry-ish on the outside surface, but it's still wet in the inside. So it might morph a little bit, gravity taking its toll. So you can kind of push it back and forth into the position you want, and then come back and check on it again another 6-12 hours. That said, these look pretty good. I did a few changes. So the top of the head, right in the top center here, in the remake, there's almost nothing there. If in fact, there's usually not even a bump there, I don't think. I can check my references. I don't think so. But in the original version, there's kind of like 3 humps. It might be hard to see. But there is a hump that kind of comes to a point here, and then there's a center bulge in the middle. So I tried to recreate that. As this dries, that might deform a little bit, so I'll have to check on it again probably tomorrow, see where it's at, if you can even make it out, considering everything's all wet right now. But for now, I'm going to set these two aside and then get to work on the backside. All right, now onto the back of the head. Like I had mentioned in the previous video, in the original, there is a weird warped skin texture on the back of the head. The lines that I made for this template that follow this is the actual direction of that warpage. So when it comes to doing the original 2001 version, I can use foam clay along these to kind of like get a warped stretch look. Now, for the remake version, the 2024 version, the material in the back is the same exact stuff in the front, so it's just smooth. So this one will be a little more fun to do, this one will be a little more tedious. So I think we'll just get this one out of the way first, that way it's not a pain in the butt. Now, if I knew I was doing this originally, I probably would have sanded a lot of these seams down, but originally I was planning just to do the 2001 version, and then that was it. So I more or less just made more work for myself. Yeah, so this probably won't be enough, but after this stage, we'll be going over everything with sealer, and that'll probably be a few layers, and that will help further smooth everything out. This is probably a little excessive, but oh well. I'm still gonna run the foam clay over the seams like before. But once I'm done, I'm going to just keep doing it all over the place. This one will be a little bit more messy, but it'll also be easier to deal with, just because I don't have to make everything super smooth. I'll do this in 2 phases. Get these first, just to get them to lay down. Okay, so now in the original, it is a little tighter here, and then the more stretchy stuff is on the side. That said, the stretch lines are still kind of seen the whole way through. So I can probably, as I'm doing this, probably just keep smoothing this part out, but just making sure that I'm still getting the ones on the side. I need to clean my hands. Now, I'm not too worried about getting anything up here, because if you can see the marker line, that's kind of where the overlap's going to be from the front half of the mask. Alright, now I'm just going to go back and forth over this. And making sure I get the center a little tighter than the rest. Okay, there we go. Now you can kind of see it is definitely messy, but whatever. It'll be fine. And now we got our backs done on these. With this one here, you can see there's like a lot more texture to it. The end goal for the remake version 1 will be to try and get it a lot smoother. This might take multiple passes. Maybe not really. It looks like it's bumpy right now, but when it dries, it'll actually be smoother than it looks. That said, foam clay takes 24 hours minimum to dry, and I work tomorrow anyway, so I guess I get to call it a day and go do something else. I will see you in 24 to 48 hours. Okay, so it has been roughly 48 hours, and the foam clay is mostly dry. It should be a lot easier to see the details now that everything's not all wet and glossy. Now I can go through and point out all of the weird and slight imperfections. For example, like here in the corner, there's still a gap from the seam. We got a couple cracks here on the top of the head and stuff. That's fine. As far as the back goes, kind of the same thing. A little bit of imperfections here and there, no big deal. This is where the next phase comes in. So I didn't really have to do this with all the black EVA foam and just filling everything in, but I felt that because of how smooth this is supposed to be, that kind of helped with some of that definition, to kind of help smooth certain things out, because it's not perfect. My templates are not perfect because I am not perfect. I don't do this for a living, I do this for fun. So that said, next thing will be actual sealing. And this is what I like to use. I don't know how much this is, I don't remember, but I always tend to have at least one of these on hand in the craft room. This I will not do barehanded, just because of how absolutely messy it is. I will use rubber gloves. On top of that, I will also need water, because I will also have to smooth this stuff out. This is very, very thick, and we want to kind of water it down a little bit, just like we did with the foam clay. So that's where more water comes in. But anyway, with that said, let's do this step now. So really, I'm just hitting up all of these seams. This is gonna be so much easier to see versus the last section. But yeah, you can see it in some lighting, maybe not really. Yeah, there's the seam here, this entire seam here. Basically, I'm gonna hit every seam, every single one, just to be safe. Okay, I'm gonna just start here with the Santa beard, because if I go too far then it starts to dry. I don't know what the actual dry time is on this stuff, but that said, this stuff is so much easier to work with than the foam clay. I'll get in here too, because even though I tried cleaning this up with the foam clay, I can still see some indents. And the goal is to smooth these seams out as much as possible. Yeah, this is definitely a step where you don't have to try as hard. As long as you're filling in the gaps. It I don't want to say it self-levels, but it will bulk up in the low spots. Okay, that, oh geez, I can't get a hold of it. Alright, that is our sealing job. It's kind of a lot, but whatever. Now, because I did water everything down, a lot of this is going to more or less dry out into almost nothing. What will remain is where you see the really heavy concentrations, like in the corners, across here, where the seams are, all those buildups. That will be what stays. This will require maybe one more pass, but while I let this dry, I'm going to do the other ones, and you don't need to see that because it's the same exact process. Well, maybe I'll show the back side, I don't know. Oh, I definitely should mention, because I've done this before and I completely forgot. So you can see the mess I'm making on the table right now. This stuff will stain your clothes. I have pants that just have drops of this all over, and I can't really wear them out in public anymore because they look atrocious from doing this. And then I realized after a while, it's like, oh, I guess I should just scoot in. Alright, now I gotta wait for this all to dry so I can do pass 2. Okay, we're not dry yet, but we're almost dry, so I'm just gonna get round 2 started, because I can see where the problem spots mostly are. It's gonna be hard to tell. The spot where I sanded on the chin, obviously. There's a small gap right in the forehead. Probably can't get it in the light just right. But there's a small spot, like right here, that's a little bumpy. There's another good one. You should be able to see that one right there. Ooh, that right there. Yeah. Fill that in real good. Other than that, I think it's fine. Alright, now with that all done, I'm gonna do a quick back and forth just to try and smooth some things out to make those new layers a little more consistent. Alright, I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope that that is the last pass that I really need to do. Okay, change in camera angle. It is not as appealing as the rest, but I'm doing something else and everything else is over there. I need somewhere else to do this stuff. So what I have here is some clear Worbla, thermoplastic. It is manipulatable with heat. What I have here are my heat pipes. These are what keep my house warm. What I'm pretty much gonna do, I have a collection of like random wooden dowels and stuff. I'm just gonna throw this up here on top. Now you're probably asking yourself, what am I doing with this? Well, for the 2024 version, there's a red square in the mouth, and then the original version has some kind of like floating bloodlines / teeth stuff. So I figure I might as well make it with this. But before I do that, because this is packaged in a roll, I need to straighten it out. That said, I have used a bunch of this stuff already, and I'm really just looking for a reason to use the rest of it. So this mixed with the heat gun. This stuff is not as hard to work with as a lot of people make it out to be. Just give this some heat and that should straighten right out. And there we go. All right. Let's give that a moment to cool down. It should not be that bad now, but just because of the heat, it's still a little loosey-goosey. If anything, I could just lay it. I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna lay it down. That way it lays flat, or at least flattish. So the whole reason I wanted to do this before painting is because this is going to need something to mount itself to. So now a while back I did end up originally wanting to put the red square on the original mouth until I did a bunch of research, and that's when I found out about the square bloodlines thing, and I was like, there's weird inconsistencies, and I was like, yeah, screw it, I just won't deal with it. Plus, I think in the original you had nurses that didn't have anything, and then you had some nurses that had the lines. So after talking to some people thought it was like maybe like a damage indicator, like maybe they didn't have it, but if you did damage it would show up. I don't know, or maybe it was kind of random. But anyway, I do have one that's already kind of cut out. I'll probably have to reshape it though. That said, a normal pair of scissors is good enough. But I think what I need to do is figure out a mounting system for this first. I can use the lining of the lip to kind of like squeeze in something. I will use more of this as mounting hardware, and I'll just heat it and melt it to the back. This is actually 2 pieces melted together. That's why there's some air bubbles, but the air bubbles are fine because it adds a texture, and the square has a texture on it, so all works. So I have no plan on what I'm actually doing here. I am totally winging this, so let's see what happens. All right, so the plastic's actually kind of hard to see on the table. But that said, I'm leaving the 2 heads here. That way I can kind of figure out what I want. In the meantime, I should also pull up references again. Oh yeah, that's right. The model on Sketchfab uses the broken texture and makes it a full square. So if you do check it out on Sketchfab, you see that there's a bunch of black spots on that texture. That black is supposed to be transparent. And the theory is that in the HD collection, one of its many, many bugs was that it didn't handle its transparent textures very well. So every time there was supposed to be something semi-transparent, like the edges and every bit of black on that texture, it showed up solid. So in the game, it was there on every model, and it was a solid square. So if that is indeed the case, I've never touched the HD collection in my life, but if that is true, the fact that there's now a red square on these nurses because of a glitch in a terrible port of Silent Hill 2, I don't know if that would be considered funny or sad or both. But what's weirder is that Masahiro Ito draws it that way now too. So how did that even happen? But anyway, I have my source images up, so I can now get to work. So the thing is that I made this portion of the mouth just a hair too big, like it's 10% too big. It needs to be just a little bit smaller and a little bit, like it just needs to be just a little bit smaller. I can't do anything about it though, so it is what it is. That said, I suppose this is correct, but I guess height-wise, I think it should be straight off like that. Now that said, if you are doing the remake version with the square, to make it easier to breathe, you could always just cut this entire portion of the mouth out and do your framework in there. But before I do that, I will also need to do for this one. And in that case, I'm going to cut out a decent sized square about there. All right, so on my computer, I have references of those lines. Yeah, so the more I look at this, where people call them teeth, I don't see it because they are not consistent with the shape of teeth. It definitely is like a random blood splatter of some kind that's meant to go along with the shape of the mouth itself. Which looks like that. If anything, what I think I might actually do, paint this layer in acrylic, take another piece, laminate it over top, then cut that out, and then have that over the mouth. and then come up with a framework, probably similar to what I'll use on the other one. I like the sound of that. Let's try that. Okay, grab some random paints and some brushes. I'm gonna put this on a plate so that you can actually see it. I also don't know what kind of brush I'm gonna be using. I don't think it matters for how small this is. I'll just use whatever this thing is. That said, I grabbed an assortment of colors. I will be end up using these on this as well for later, so I'm just gonna keep them out when I'm done. I'm not sure where to start, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it. And I'm just gonna do this in kind of a patchy pattern. Whoops, that's not red. I always have this tendency to just kind of wing what I'm doing and then I learn on the fly. I am no expert, which means what I'm doing here, I have no idea. Am I just here to inspire? Definitely can't be here to instruct. First pass down, I feel like a sponge is way more appropriate. Let me cut a little chunk of this out. I also do have like actual sponge brushes. I guess I could have just grabbed them instead. Oh well. All right, let's grab a darker color. And I guess with this, I'm just trying to make sure I kind of stay in the lines because of how thick and splotchy this is. It's actually not a bad. It's not bad at all. All right, I do like that. I'll set that aside for now to dry. Technically, I guess I could have also just done that on the actual face, but who knows? We'll see what we end up doing. No, you cannot get up. Oh my god, okay, fine. We have a cat now supervising. We will do our best to make sure we don't get cat paw prints on everything. And also don't eat the paint. It's not food. I know you always complain that you've never been fed in your whole life. Alright, I think that'll do for texture on that. Alright, now to let all that dry and then figure out what I'm doing next. Okay, well, now that Sable's done knocking everything over, I'll move these out of the way. I had an idea the moment I turned the camera off. So I have another shot, another piece here. Figured the paint's, it's not dry yet, but it's almost dry. So I figured what any kind of like spillage from the lamination process would, I don't know. That said, I don't know. Yeah, sure, why not? That said, I'm also trying to get as much of this, because to get these two to laminate, I do need to press them together. And one, it's hot. I should have grabbed some oven mitts or something. That would probably work. All right. Okay, so I don't have oven mitts, but I do have another idea. Okay, let's try it this way. Ooh, rubbery. All right. As for this one, I'm not worried about it. I'll just hit that up with some Modge Podge or something, clean that up. With that all figured out, now I get to figure out the mounting hardware. Shouldn't need a lot, maybe 2 pieces to make sure it stays. Yeah, and then I'll have them going straight into the mouth. Because if I do it a piece on the top lip and bottom lip coming out this way, gravity will want to pull it down. But if I do 2 here coming straight out, that'll hold it steady. Might want to flip-flop a little bit that way, but I guess as long as I don't hold it on its side, it shouldn't shift. Which means we're looking at about this much. Which is what? Well, if I could cut a straight line, that'd be about 1/2 inch. And if that's the case, considering how far out this really would need to be, I don't think I'll need more than this. So let's set this aside, bring back my foam, and I'm gonna lay these 2 on top of each other and hope that the air from the heat gun does not blow them around. That should be enough. Alright. Yeah, when this stuff is hot, you can just see just how rolly it is. But we lay it down flat. Let it cool, it'll harden right up. All right, now that we have that, now we get to figure out how far out this all goes. Should not go too far. I don't want it going too far, so look at it like that. Because it is gonna have to go inside of the foam, which means I should give it a little extra. Well, in that case, we only need 4. We have a little extra, so we'll just do some lazy math and just cut it in half twice. Okay, now that said, I am going to need, if I just take this and heat it to the back, that's gonna create a little bit of a problem. So I'll need to get a little piece of square of something to kind of have those in and then have that heat. Yes. Okay, the way this is going to work then is that I'll just then push these in here. There we go. There we go. There's one. So it's going to look kind of like that. Double piece is the little handle that I have, and then that will be what attaches to the back of the square and the bloodlines, and then this will go inside the mouth. 1 down, 3 to go. Now for the interesting part. I get to figure out, yeah, so I guess we're gonna have to make the holes first. Now for the fun part of figuring out how I'm going to mount this. Although I highly doubt I can get it to stay still. So, use this. So it's going to fit in between those two. There we go. All right, now with all that said, that's gonna come out just a little bit. Obviously I'm not gonna glue this in until after the whole mask is done. So that's one down. I think this one should be easier. Now, I am sure there's a better way to do this. I am just very, very new to Worbla though. This is my first rule of it after all. Alright, that said, for this one here I still need to trim the inside, but everything's too soft to deal with that. So for now, I'm gonna call these done and then we'll move on to painting the masks. And then comes the depressing part. Every single time I go to start any kind of project, I never update my brushes. So all I have are these tiny little rinky dinky things. Like I bought like random packs for this stuff, but something like this, I need something big because I'm just covering a lot of area at first. So fortunately this is all I got, so it's what I'm using. Now, for my Modge Podge, I have 2 gloss and 1 matte. Well, I don't know. I never know. I never know what I'm doing. Oh geez, when was the last time I used this stuff? Let's just throw that away. Now this process is going to take me all night because Modge Podge has, I don't want to say it has a slow dry time, but it's slower than acrylic, faster than oil. Probably with every pass, give it like at least an hour. It's gonna be hard to tell with this very first pass what I even covered. I feel like I'm gonna get this crap all over me. I am probably going to end up doing that. Now, even though I did punch out holes in the mouth for the accessories, I am just gonna paint over them again. I'll cut them out as needed when I go to put all that stuff back in. All right, there's one down. That'll work. Okay, now again, Modge Podge takes a while to dry, so I'm gonna have to give this some time. I'll check back on this in maybe an hour and then start round 2. Well, I just had to stop what I was doing because I completely forgot to hook up my microphone when I came back down here. So first two are already done. The marks I made, or the holes I made in the mouth, they they look like cartoon teeth now. Like, it looks like I'm dealing with a Warner Brothers cartoon. Fortunately, I didn't really say much, aside from the fact that I'm going around giving everything a quick base coat of white, and then I'll start layering the Modge Podge and all the other stuff. Okay. I'm gonna run my room here real soon. All right. I am covered in paint. The ones in the back are dry. Let's swap these. This really is a production line, and my table is not long enough. Okay, so now both of these both have around the same color palette. So that's good. That means I can do this either way. Okay, this will work. This is very light. So there's a lot of like shading in the corners and stuff, so now, unfortunately, the references I'm using are just images rather than actual 3D models for the remake. So I'm taking some artistic guesses on the side here. But again, this is just the first pass of color. After this, it'll be Modge Podge, and then it'll all just kind of start over again and again and again. I don't know why this patchwork makes me think of like a Dalmatian or something. All right, now that said, Okay, first pass is done. I'm gonna do a layer of Modge Podge. Now this is my watered down Modge Podge. So this is what I'm gonna be doing it with. I'll mix it in with this white that I also watered down. Now when you mix paint with Modge Podge, what actually happens is you're watering down the paint itself, but it also tints the clear coat that the Modge Podge creates in the end. So a little bit of paint and a little bit of Modge Podge will create like a mild white clear coat. While it is drying though, the color will seem more prominent just because Modge Podge itself is more white before it dries, kind of like Elmer's glue. Alright, I think I got everything. It all looks wet at least. Should I do the top? Yeah, at least for this first pass. Alright, there's another face down. Okay. And yet another pass done. Now to wait. Okay, it's not 100% dry yet, but it's tacky, so it's fine. So now we need to do a darker brown. Will add a shade of red as well to it. And I don't know if I should, yeah, I'm just gonna mix it in with the existing white, white paint and Modge Podge. Alright, now we're looking a little too similar to what we had. A couple more drops of red. Okay. I'll stick strictly to the sponge for this. Now on to the remake helmet, or mask, I guess. Okay, and which one is this? This is the original back of the head. Back of the remake head is a lot cleaner, so I'll just do some quick outlines. Okay, and from here, I think we'll do another layer of Modge Podge. Then we'll start working on reds. Probably 2 layers of reds. So Modge Podge, red, Modge Podge, red, Modge Podge. That's a lot of Modge Podge. I'm just gonna pour Modge Podge right here. My watery Modge Podge. Okay, before I keep doing my passes while I'm waiting for this Modge Podge to dry, I am gonna start covering the cap. This is more of a gray tone, so I have a light gray here. I already have some partially dried black, so I'm gonna see how these two blend together. And it looks like, well, there we go. I'm gonna take some of this Modge Podge and drip a little bit of that in there too. That should lighten it up as well. Okay. Just keep moving on with that. I'm just gonna keep doing layers. And just a little bit of brown. Was gonna do black, but Now I'll do one more pass with a much darker color, and we'll do this just for the corners of everything. I'm doing here, I guess, is I'm just trying to smooth out that line and fade it into the face. Just keeping a little bit of water on the brush and just kind of working it around. Yeah, that works. That should be good enough. All right, and now this one, and then after that, then the caps will be done, and I can just do the blood stains, which there aren't really much all of on the remake. Work. I think that's good. Now to give this a moment to dry, and then we'll start doing the final phase with the blood stains. All right, now let's see if we can finish this paint job. I'm gonna mix a brown and red. I'm gonna start dark and then work my way up to the light. So we've already been using a lot of browns, so we're gonna bump up the red, start out maybe 50-50. And then we'll give it a drop of Modge Podge. Now while my results are actually looking half decent so far, I am by no means an expert when it comes to painting, so whatever colors, I constantly feel like I'm just getting lucky, to be honest. I don't know how I managed to end up where I did with these colors so far. I do find myself getting lucky in this regards a lot, so yeah. Alright, so now that I have all that done, I need to add some water, because I need to water this down. Because the first coat of blood is going to be insanely wet, especially if you look at the original version. There's a nice, like, wide spread out brownish red underneath the actual color. There's like a spill kind of fade. Okay. All right, so which one's which? This is the back of the remake head. Okay, and this is the original, which I'll do it last because it's going to require the most. I'm gonna tap this a couple times just because there's some dirt here. Alright, now for the thing that I kind of was fearing. I know that watering this down is going to turn it pink. There we go, that gets the stain. Gets rid of the rough, keeps the stain. I like this. Probably not that noticeable yet, but there is a mild red hue, which is good. This is back of this one. I'll do the same to this. And those corners. There's probably a couple, so I'm just gonna, yeah. And then, boop, 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 boop. Except for the back of the head. Yeah. Pretty. The camera's still not really picking it up. That's fine. It's giving me an effect that I like. And since this blood effect is really only to the original, I guess I don't really need to touch the remake for now. That said, before I go to a later color, I want to do this one more time. Mostly in like really concentrated spots. And back with the tissue. Alright. Now we'll go full red. I'm just gonna leave it over here. Mix it in just a little bit. And just for the hell of it, throw a little bit of Modge Podge in there too. Alright, good enough. Now this, I think I'll just leave it exclusive to the front. Now there is just a random splatter all over it. A lot of it's on the face and a couple spots here in the corners.
Let's throw that out.
Because I did not really water the red down while I'm doing this, it's actually kind of stamping from every time I pick a little bit up onto the tissue, it's leaving it somewhere else when I tap down next. So it's both picking up and putting down. But what it puts down is light, so that's kind of cool. That's going to allow me to fade around these just a little bit. And it'll also push down some of the heavy spots. All right. That said, we have one last thing left to do. It's not really needed on that, but it will be needed on this. Just because all this blood is... Oh, yeah, guess I should have probably waited for it to dry. Well, I either made this cooler looking, or I made it worse. Either way, I can't turn back now. So, whoops. I have a feeling I might have messed this up. But we'll see. Really, we won't know until it's dry, so... I figure as long as I don't overdo it, keep my brush strokes light. I mean that, or it might give me that smear I was looking for. We'll find out. We will definitely find out. And that said, this is way too stained pink now. I cannot do that. But I guess I should, just for the sake of consistency, do the back too. That said, I did have this happen once before with the Pyramid Head helmet, where I got a lot of red in the Modge Podge, and the end result was barely noticeable. It had a very, very mild reddish pink hue to it, but it was not something that you could really notice. Alright, there we go. A layer on that one now. This is done. There is one more thing left to do, and I don't have the appropriate color, and I might have to wait. But at the top of the cap in the front, there's a green line. I'm probably going to wait on that, because to make it straight, I don't know if I want to use painter's tape or what. So for now, I'm going to let this dry, which will take... It's Modge Podge, so it might take an hour. I will come back, take a little break. Okay, I just got back from taking a break, and this actually doesn't look that bad. I kind of like it. Now, I really want to go to bed. It's early in the morning and I work tonight, so I don't want to make this last any longer than I need to. This feels dry. As for the ribbon on the top, I should have definitely painted that before painting everything else, but it's too late for that. So I need to open up these spots in the mouth again and try and push these in. I don't know. I mean, I guess it kind of works. And then throw in the back half. Looks pretty cool. Now let's see what the other one looks like. Now, because this one is based fully on the template, the other one was based on the mock-up, everything fits together a little bit better. So, oh geez, I accidentally popped that off. I'll have to just hot glue it. But yeah, this one, what do you think? That said, I still need to do the mounting hardware inside of these and the elastic that holds everything together, which I will do later because I want to go to bed because I have to work tonight. Yeah, I have to work tonight. Okay, Okay, so I woke up just a little early before having to go to work. So I'm not showing myself because I have not showered yet, but I want to try and get as much of this done because I've been way too excited after getting all that stuff, and I need to fix the mouths. So I traced out already where this was supposed to be. I cut the hole in the mouth just a little bit wider because it was really twisting, and that's what actually caused the one side to pop off. I have my hot glue gun good to go now. There we go. Pop that out just enough. Go there. And then we'll glue around the inside. Pop that in so it's not in the way. There. That should be good. And now let's do this one too. Good enough. All right, so now I'm going to reference my original mask from the inside, because this is how the inside is. I don't have all my lighting on, but you can see there's 3 pieces of elastic on the inside with a bunch of foam. So I'm going to put all that foam in and then the elastic. I have a bunch of this stuff and I have absolutely no idea where I got it from. The reason my glue is looking kind of pink is actually because before I used this stick, I was using a wax stick, and it's kind of dyeing the hot glue. Set these aside to let them cool while I do the fronts. I'm going to cut out 2 just in case. Hey, that works. Now, in that one I have it at a bit of an angle, so and then this part here will go on the inside because that'll butt up against the nose and make it nice and smooth. In theory, I'm gonna use this. I'm going to cut out a slit in the center, give the hot glue something extra to hang on to. Now, in theory, I'm trying to take it just to the inside of this. That way there's a little bit of overlap when these two actually get glued together. All right, I'm probably going just a little overboard here, but oh well. Again, I'm just referencing the original pattern that I did because this is a little bit of a back and forth with my wife to make sure everything was good for her when I was putting all of this in. So in the back, you can see there's just 3. And then in the front, the sides weren't really necessary, but they were more to help kind of keep it from swiveling side to side. Now with that done, where's my elastic? I grabbed a roll of it somewhere. Get about that long. I'll make 2 of them. Okay, that's our middle. So they'll kind of go from there to here-ish. And I need 4 of them. Precision doesn't matter. Just getting something somewhat close. That's all that matters. All right, set that aside. There's our sides. Okay. That should stick. And the other ones kind of lean inward. Okay. Now to start gluing them together. And not accidentally glue together the wrong ones. Alright. Wide one. This one. This is where things are going to be very difficult for you to see, but I'll be able to see it. And that's all that matters. Now, I would definitely recommend doing some like fitment tests before actually doing this stage. That said, because of the way this works and the way the back half kind of opens and closes with the elastic, it makes it almost kind of like a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Now, to get these to work, I need to pull this in first, and then almost to the point where it's a little tighter than it needs to be. Probably not going to be perfect, but I'll let that sit for now. But you can see I have it pulled in and then those glued. And once that's dry, we'll check them all out.
A few moments later.
All right, now we have our finally finished nurse masks. There's a few things that I did not do that I still wish I could have. I didn't Modge Podge the red square. It's also a little cockeyed. I could always fix that too. I didn't put the green line on the nurse's caps like I wanted to. It's no big deal. It's still something I could go back and do later if I really wanted to. But that said, the original, the remake, I think they're both pretty cool. That said, this being a little bit more narrow is mostly just because this was the original template reference before I made the template. So your end result should look more closer to this. If you want it to be a little bit more narrow to match the original, you might just have to trim off a little bit down the center. That's about it. But other than that, super duper cool. But again, just like I had shown in the beginning of the first episode, the way this works then is that this back opens up. So as you can see on the inside, put our insulation in and our elastic in the top. So you would just take it on like this, put it on, close the back. This whole thing's based more on my wife's head. My head is ginormous, so I doubt this would actually fit me. This would more fit her. But either way, I think it looks pretty cool. Could be better, yes, but has anybody made a template for one yet? No. So if you don't think it's good enough, by all means, either make a better one or take my template and make it better. But this is a good starting point for those who are familiar with EVA foam. With that said, I have more Halloween projects to work on as Halloween's kind of approaching, so I will see you in the next one.